Hello, kidney warriors! James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach, and this is another episode of Dadvice TV Live. Now, for those of you that are joining us for your first time, welcome. Great to have you here. I am a kidney warrior like so many of you. I was diagnosed just over 5 years ago with kidney failure. Since then, I have worked on getting my blood pressure under control, getting my uric acid under control, eating much, much healthier and better and kidney friendly and heart friendly. And that has allowed me to manage my symptoms and actually eliminate all of them. And during that time, my labs have improved. Now, that didn't fix my kidneys. They're still shot. But by eating better, I am able to reduce the burden on my kidneys and they can keep up with me. That way I'm not being held back by kidney disease. Now tonight we have a great co-host, it's been about 2 years since she was here. Last, we kept trying to schedule stuff and then I was moving and all sorts of other things, but she's here and this will probably be the start of coming on from time to time to help share knowledge about living with kidney disease. And what's cool, and I'll let her explain all the details, but she has an organization that not only specializes in kidney disease, we're talking about keto diet for kidney patients, not only CKD, but also PKD. And I know for those of you out there that have polycystic kidney disease, also known as PKD, there's not a lot of great information out there. Well, guess what? We have a lot of fantastic information right here for you tonight. So let's go ahead and bring on our co-host so we can talk about living with diabetes and a keto diet to help you manage CKD and or even PKD. There's a lot of benefits that you're going to learn about for those with PKD. Please give a great big warm welcome to my host, Jess from the Kidney Institute, or Kidney Nutrition Institute.
That's perfect, James. Thanks for letting me be here. I feel like a superstar with that introduction. Thank you so much.
I bring the energy.
This is awesome. Yeah, it's so good. That's what we need because I really think, that when you work from a positive space, you're able to get positive results. And it's so huge. There's so much doom and gloom in CKD. But when you really work from a place of health, not disease, I think that it's amazing. So I love that. Love that energy.
Yep. So tell everyone about yourself and your background and how they can learn more about your organization.
Okay, so Jessianna Saville, again, Kidney Nutrition Institute is my organization. We are a group of very collaborative dietitians, renal nutrition experts, and our mission is kidney disease remission, right? You don't hear remission in a lot of spit. You hear like cancer remission, diabetes remission, but I really believe kidney disease can be a state of remission. Our website is kidneynutritioninstitute.org and you can go find us there. We are pioneers on some pretty cutting edge nutrition treatments. We really push the envelope with what standard treatment is because we are highly valued and are very driven by not just nutrition care, but by getting an actual outcome from nutrition and lifestyle. We want to see, like what James said, we want to see people's labs go up. We want to see them get in a good spot where they love their food. We want to get, we want people to see that kidney disease is not a slippery slope to dialysis. We want them to see that there is hope and there's things you can change and there's things you can try and there's things you can do. And sometimes you got to think outside the box from what you've been told. But there are so many amazing options for people, and it's different for every person. It's so different for every single person how we approach it. There's not a one size fits all. Plant-based doesn't work for everyone. Keto doesn't work for everyone. It's just so very, very individualized.
Awesome. And that positivity is one of the things that helped me get to where I am today. I've always been a positive person. And everyone that meets me knows it, and it has been critical to the challenges and getting over them and seeing that I can do it.
Yes, you can. You can do it. Absolutely. There are options.
Yep. Now, tonight we're going to talk about diabetes and the keto diet for those with CKD and slash PKD, because I want to include them because there's so little information out there. Um, and just before we started, you and I were talking a little bit, and I was telling you I've heard that for those that have PKD, a low carb diet, from what I'm reading and hearing, can be beneficial. And you said, hey, I've got something to share about that.
Yes. Yeah, I'd love to tell just a little bit of the background story of this. So, I am very conventionally trained, right? I went through the traditional medical system. When I started my practice, we were all about like low potassium, low phosphorus, all that rigmarole. And I had a really special patient, and I will say all the progress at Kidney Nutrition Institute is driven by patients because they want outcomes and we want to figure it out. But I had a really special patient who had polycystic kidney disease, and we'd done a ton of stuff. We'd done fully plant-based, we'd done elimination diets, we'd done like all this stuff. And I saw an article come out in the medical literature that talked about ketogenic diets for PKD. And in this article, they were looking at animal models, which is important to note. It was animal models, but they saw the kidneys in the animal models go from being big and enlarged, which is what you get in PKD, to normal size. And when I read that, I was blown away. Because if you're the PKD world, you understand, right? If you have
Mhm.
PKD, there's a straight line to dialysis or transplant for most people. Like really no options, no control. There's one extraordinarily expensive medication and which has some liver side effects. But when I read that, I was honestly a little bit skeptical at first. I was like, keto and kidneys, like there's no way you could do that. I was like, how would you do keto and kidneys? It's so much meat, it's so much this, it's so much that. I don't know how that would work. But this patient who I really care about, she's amazing. And I still work with her. I've worked with her for like 3 or 4 years. But I really wanted to see if this would work because we just hadn't gotten the outcome I expected for her.
Mhm.
And so I reached out to the professor, Dr. Thomas Wimes, who was the author on this research. It was from his lab. I happened to be going to California. And if I'm honest, I had at that time a brand new baby, about maybe 6 months old. I had a 2-year-old, and I had to take him with me. And we took like a midnight flight. But I felt really compelled to go to California for this conference and to visit Dr. Wimes. It was a weird thing. Like sometimes you just have like gut feelings. You should do
Mhm.
something. So, anyways, when I met Dr. Wimes, I was like, well, this is pretty compelling. I was like, if I can get kidney guidelines to interface with keto guidelines, maybe we could do this, right? Maybe
Mhm.
we could do keto for folks with PKD. And if it's not going to hurt, but it might help, what do we have to lose? So,
Exactly.
like, yeah, I was like, what do you have to lose? Like, the other option is do nothing. And that's not a good option because we know where that's going to go already.
Hmm.
So we should try something because we should get outcomes, right? This is 2024 in a few months. We should be able to get outcomes and have solutions for kidney disease. So I went on this journey to figure out how I could do keto and kidney, and I reached out to dietitians who just did kidney or just did keto. The first couple ones, I was like, I don't know. And then I met a dietitian who was doing like a very plant heavy keto, and I was like, oh, I think we could do this.
Hmm.
And so we built a protocol around it. We ran our first and had our first patient come in. I remember his GFR was 17. And Diana Bruin, who sometimes you guys will see as the PKD dietitian, she's awesome. She's working with us then. And she took this patient and we walked through the ketogenic protocol. Then we built out this group program. We published on it. It's coming up in 5 clinical trials. So at this point, we've done ketogenic diets for people with PKD, almost 200 people at this point.
Hmm.
So we've got a little bit of experience under our belt with how it works, who it works for, where the pitfalls are, when you shouldn't do it, when you should do it. And the thing that shifted my brain here, James, on using it for CKD was actually a work group. And I was kind of like, okay, I get how it works for PKD because cis feed off of glucose. So if we make our energy source ketones, because your body's either going to run on glucose, right? You eat carbs, your brain uses glucose, your body uses glucose for energy, right? Or your body can run on something called ketones, and your body works fine on ketones. It's just another energy source that our body produces because it doesn't have enough carbs to work on.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to this work group and I met this physician, Dr. David Unwin. He works for the National Health System in the UK. Really had a huge impact on me. And he told me how he'd been utilizing keto for his patients with diabetes for quite a while, maybe the last 5 years. And he had the most published cases in the world, this one little clinic in the world, the most published cases of diabetes remission. And I was, I'm still coming from my kidney background. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. How do you approach it? And just, tell me a little bit more. And he told me that as he started sharing about this, that all the dietitians would, like, he'd go share at a conference, they'd stand up and be like, how can you do this? You're going to blow out everyone's kidneys. Like, this is the worst thing ever. And he's like, well, I got all this data. So he went back and looked, and actually what he saw, and you can go read this study, it's super interesting, real world data. So it's like real people went into the doctor's office, got some direction, and then moved forward with it.
Mm-hmm.
They actually saw an improvement in their kidney function. And I was like, wow. And he was not doing, and we are advocates for a very plant-focused approach, but he wasn't even doing any modification of protein. And I was like, really? That's so interesting. And it really made me start digging into what was going on in the world of ketogenic diets. And how it can be an option for people with kidney disease, not just PKD, which I really believe it's a great skill there, but for other people. And diabetes, there has been study after study after study. I mean, there's a huge organization that just got a $10 million grant from the Department of Defense, Verta Health, diabetes, CKD, ketogenic diets, low carb diets. And I was like, we need to know how to use this tool for diabetes and CKD for the right people. Totally would be a game changer. Totally. And I really believe that. I am not saying, and we are not dogmatic about it, keto is right for everyone, same as we're not dogmatic about plant-based is right for everyone. But it is a fabulous tool, a really incredible tool if you do it right. And it is quite sustainable.
Now, does it matter if you're type 1 or type 2?
That's a good question. You can use with type 1 and type 2, both of them. At the same conference, I met another physician named Dr. Ian Lake. He's a physician, and he also has type 1 diabetes, and he follows a fully ketogenic diet.
Wow. I was expecting you to say no for type 1. That's great that you can do it with type 1.
Yeah, there's a couple really incredible researchers that have type 1 themselves that are in the ketogenic space. I wouldn't, if you want to do this, you must do it with a medical professional, though, for type 1. It would not, I think for type 2 also, but you'll be so much more successful. For type 1, you really need to be smart how you're going to manage it, but it is totally and completely possible. And Dr. Lake had been following a ketogenic diet for 8 years, and he still did. He felt great. And he's got some really interesting publications. He now teaches about it. He's not a celebrity doctor, same as Dr. Unwin. He's in the National Health System. He's just like, I couldn't control my blood sugars on a rate. And he ate a vegetarian diet, I think. He's like, they're all over the place. And he's like, this works way better for me.
Wow. So I did a keto diet but it was like dirty keto shortly after being diagnosed because the doctor was like, you got to drop some weight. Um, Luckily, I'm not diabetic. My A1C is always like 5 point something. Um, I think the highest ever was 5.9 or something like that. And it helped me drop weight really, really quickly. And it gave me a lot of energy. And I noticed that I was walking a lot further. And it may have just been my excitement from seeing the scale get lower and lower and lower, and motivating myself. But I felt that it gave me more energy and it really, really helped. And I remember when I stopped my keto diet, it was a Halloween that I was giving out giant candy bars. The big ones, not the regular full size, the big.
You're the house everyone goes to. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted every kid in the neighborhood to know my house so they would play with my kids. That's how I made friends in the new neighborhood. But I remember sitting there and I'm like, oh, this one's cracked. I can feel it. It's broken. One ain't gonna hurt. That was the day I fell off the wagon and never got back on.
It's interesting. I mean, ketosis is really interesting. And I would like just to make some clarifications, because I think there's a couple big myths around it. Ketosis or ketogenic diet is different than ketoacidosis. Now, if you have type 1 and for some people type 2, you may have had diabetic ketoacidosis. It's serious. It's nothing you play around with. And it's interesting because a lot of physicians actually, they still mix these up. They think ketogenic diets or ketogenic approaches equals ketoacidosis. And that is like, they're two totally different things, right? Like they're not the same thing. But yeah, so when you're in ketosis, when your body is running on ketones, and I don't know if this was your experience, it definitely has been my experience. And to be transparent, as dietitians, we try every diet that we utilize because you learn the most from doing it.
Yeah,
So I've
true.
done a ketogenic diet. I'm not in ketosis now, so I don't want to look like a ketogenic evangelical because I value personalized nutrition, but I know what keto feels like. So when I was in keto, it was so interesting because cravings decrease. When
Hmm.
you run on ketones, you your interaction with food is really different. Like you don't crave the carbs. It's not that you don't enjoy them, right? But like but you don't crave them in the same way. And so it's actually a little bit easier than people think a lot of times. But once you trigger like going down the road of I've added in some carbs, if you don't have a
Hmm.
game plan on the other side, for sure, like it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, I'll say mine was the exact same. It got to the point, and I did not have the keto flu or anything like that my doctor had warned me I may get. But once I was producing the ketones, I was using the strip to check,
Yeah.
and it got stronger and stronger. I mean, whatever color it was getting darker and darker. Um, Food, I wasn't hungry. I actually ate on a schedule because like, okay, it's time to eat. It wasn't that I was craving stuff,
Mhm.
and I had no desire for the carbs and the sugars. I knew that those would knock me out of ketosis. In the very beginning, it took a while to get into ketosis. Um, but once I wasn't craving those. But once I let myself add in a candy bar, a big giant candy bar. I don't know, there's probably 4 servings in there of Hershey's chocolate or something. I remember that day. I have not gone back, and I want to.
And it's yeah, it's when people move into ketosis and learn this lifestyle, and I actually will say that for almost everyone, you should try ketosis. Like try a ketogenic diet, learn what that feels like as a human. But again, like once you get into ketosis, so much changes. And especially if you learn to do it correctly, most of our patients, honestly, we have a bigger problem with them losing too much weight than too little. Every once in a while, someone's a little bit resistant, but for the most part, like it does, like their weight loss is really good if they need to. Or we have people that come in and they're like, I don't want to lose weight, and we struggle with that as we're doing keto. So,
Oh,
yeah,
I loved it. I just watched it. I was probably losing on average 3 to 4 pounds a week, and it felt effortless,
yeah,
and it was amazing. And the more I think about it, I'm like, I got to get back to that.
I'm here for you.
There we go.
Still have an invitation. So here, I think, could we go through a couple of the common misconceptions around
Oh,
this?
sure, sure.
I think it might help for some people. And I'm seeing a bunch of comments here about like, ketoacidosis and keto, and like there's a bunch here around some misconceptions. So if I can clarify these is really important. For those of you who are research, like you love research, you like digging into the technical papers. I don't know, there's plenty of them out there. I have patients that come in and they are like reading everything. Uh, I did just publish a paper with Dr. Wines and Dr. Cam Kalantar that went through some of the background on ketogenic diets and CKD. So, and I'm happy to drop that link in a little bit. But there's a couple huge misconceptions around ketogenic diets that people need to understand. Number one, which I already mentioned, ketoacidosis is not the same as a ketogenic diet. However, if you are type 1 diabetic, you must collaborate with your doctor and a trained dietitian if you're going to do a ketogenic diet. In my opinion, I really think that's the safest way to do it. But you can, right? You can be in ketosis as a type 1 diabetic, but you are going to be titrating way down your insulin, like way down. So there's a lot of titration, and you want to make sure that you get it right. But these are not the same. These are not the same thing. Very commonly mistaken. Number two, the other big misconception that we see this in the medical community a lot, is they say you can't do a keto diet because it's way too high protein for kidney disease. See that so much. Every paper I've read that is against keto with kidney disease, every clinician I've talked to, they're saying, well, it's just way too much protein. And the thing is that actually a true keto diet isn't high in protein, it's high in fat. And it's moderate in, like, even if you do like a regular, like, I don't know, magazine shelf keto, it should be high in fat
Mhm.
and not high in protein. Granted, including some of those high protein foods makes it easier for some people, but you don't have to, right? You don't have to include a lot of meat or bacon or cheese to run a great ketogenic protocol. Um, so that's one thing just to know. It doesn't have to be high protein. You actually don't have to include tons and tons of animal protein. Our protocol
And
that,
that's what mine was. Mine was high fat. I had a lot of fat in there. I used oils a lot more.
yeah,
Um, and my protein was pretty much normal. It was lower than what I had been eating before I was diagnosed, but it was close to a normal. It was not high protein.
yeah, no, that's totally correct. And when we run the protocol that we developed, remember I said we got to put kidney and keto together. So how are we gonna do this? Our protocol is actually really plant heavy. Like, our patients are getting tons of fiber, they get tons of healthy fat, they actually get a lot of vegetables in, they include a little bit of fruit.
Hmm.
Like, it's a really beautiful diet, and it's really good. And it's honestly, we walk through a 12-week program for PKD, and then we're doing a diabetes CKD program. We're beta testing it this February. So for those who are interested, really good to come into the beta test of it. But they'll go through 12 weeks, and during those 12 weeks, we really like nailed down keto for them. Like, is this the lifestyle you're going to live for forever, or do we need to modify it? And It doesn't have to be high protein. And people find so many amazing things that they love to eat. And there's tons of ways to work it in. So actually, one of my patients, PKD, her GFR is like less than 15. We're doing keto right now. And we had to work in a little bit of fruit. Like
Yeah.
she needed the carbs, actually. Um, so that's another huge misconception. There's a big misconception. It's like you eat, how do you do keto? Oh, well, it's 20 grams of net carbs, and it's all about the carbs. It's not actually all about the carbs. It's about how much fat and how much fiber you get. And that's a really different way to look at it. And I'd say the last big misconception that we see in the medical community is that you must have carbs to be healthy. And I think carbs are useful in different ways. And this is where a dietitian looks at you and your history. And they're like, keto's not going to work for you. We're not going to go down that route, or it'd be so great for you. But really, our bodies can function really, really well on ketones. And there are many people. I mean, I was telling you, Dr. Unwin, Dr. Ian Lake, like a lot of people at this work group that I went to, they had been in keto for years and years and years and years. And I like 8, 9, 10 years, like they had been following a ketogenic lifestyle. And it was honestly really enlightening for me. And I've been a professional a long time, but I went to that and I was like, wow, like this is something that really should be a much more prolific option for people. And there are medical professionals that watch their labs and what they're doing, and they're living this lifestyle. And it's just a different lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So those 3 big misconceptions, for sure, I want to clarify. Ketosis is not the same as ketoacidosis. It does not have to be high protein at all. It
Mm-hmm.
definitely does not have to be high protein. And you don't have to have carbs to be healthy. Some people do, but a dietitian would help identify what would be appropriate for you.
Now, if someone wants to be plant-based heavy, that's what I consider myself. I start
Yeah.
with plants. Now, I
Yeah.
still eat chicken. I may occasionally have some bacon. I eat eggs, things like that. But I always start with the plants. So if someone wanted to start with the plants, and I'm asking this for those that are out there thinking like, there's no way you can eat a plant-based diet and be keto. Um, what does my diet kind of look like? What am I eating in a mainly plant-based one, but maybe there's some room for chicken and eggs, for example. I'm not
Yeah.
eating a ribeye, you know.
Yeah. So a lot of our patients intermittent fast, but we have some that don't. So if they're doing breakfast, they might do. There's a couple different common keto breakfasts we have. Some people do a keto porridge. Some people really like to do an egg and vegetable dish in the morning. Some people like to do. We have like a yogurt parfait that they'll do, and that works really well for them. So there's some keto cereals out there that some people like. Catalina Crunch is really popular with a lot of my patients. So that would be like a breakfast, right? And if you're plant-based and you're doing like this big like veggie scramble, and then you put some egg in it, or we have some that will put tofu in it, uh, that works great, right? It's actually really not that different. Like a plant-based diet. Then for lunch, if they didn't do a snack, which some of our patients do, but not everyone, for lunch, a lot of times people are doing a soup or a salad, and they're going real heavy on the fat in those.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, you get the best soups on keto because you get these really beautiful, like creamed soups, and they're just
Lots of flavor.
they're so flavorful. They're so good. But super salad is common. We have some people that will do a sandwich. There's a couple amazing, actually pretty solid. They're not too gunky with tons of yucky ingredients. Some pretty good keto breads out there. My favorite keto lunch, honestly, is grilled cheese and tomato soup. Like it works good. You can keep the sodium down. I got all these vegetables like in the
Yep,
soup.
yep.
Comfort food, but I can keep the carbs down even with that. So a couple options there, but same, right? Soup, salad, sandwich. Like those are pretty classic lunches anyways, and you just add a little bit more fat and make the right kind of bread. So those are common lunches. And then for dinner, we have a couple other options. So again, people will do soup, salad, sandwich type dishes. We have people that will do salmon, and then they'll do like a big, like a lot of vegetables on the side. So
Mm-hmm.
like half their plate's vegetables. They might do cauliflower rice. We have people that are not wanting to add any meat at all, which we do have those. They do. We have these really popular recipes are zucchini pizza boats. And they're actually really good, but like you like carve out the zucchini and you put in the vegetable mix. There's a couple keto pasta dishes you can do. Stir fries are amazing, and I know
Oh,
you're a
love
stir fry
stir fry.
lover. I know you're a stir fry lover.
So much you can do with it. You can change the flavor. You start with the same base vegetables,
Yeah,
and you can change it from there.
yeah. We actually have a whole like dinner handout is based on stir fry because it's so versatile. But like stir fry works great. And if you're doing plant based, what's the difference between a keto stir fry and a plant based stir fry? Rice. And you don't even put the rice in the stir fry, right? Like that's the only difference, and you're going to add extra fat. But we still use the nuts in it. That you might put cashews or sunflower seeds with your stir fry, a little bit heavier on the fat. So
Mhm.
it's not as different as people think it is from a plant-based diet. And you're not eating rice and beans, obviously, but it's like veggie heavy. And then you learn how to be real smart with your fat. And
Yeah.
like, how do you put avocado in? How do you put coconut oil in? How do you make a fat bomb? So it's honestly super doable. Super duper doable.
Yeah. Now, Philip, one of our regulars, asked, do you have to worry about watching calories when you're on a keto diet?
That's a good question. I will tell you, our patients that work with us log their food very religiously because we're using that as a tool to like tweak things. We're not trying to do this like massive makeover of everyone's diet. It's like, what do you eat? How do we tweak it so it's going to like work for you and your kidneys? Um, so we do watch calories, but interestingly, it's not as much so people will not overeat. We're watching the calories to make sure people don't undereat. We don't want them to eat too little. And so we watch calories from that realm. And more often than not, I'm telling my patients, I'm like, hey, you're hitting under like 1,000 calories every day. And we got to bump that up because I know where that's going to go in a month or so. So we'll
Yeah.
work on adding more fat in, and it's fine. I As far as calorie counting for weight loss, which might be where Philip's question is coming from, uh, you can overeat on keto, but most people, like you said, they lose their appetite. And so you don't lose your appetite. You don't
You
have
lose the
this,
cravings.
you lose the cravings. You don't have this, like, it's a really different physiological drive. You eat because you feel like you need to eat,
Mhm.
not necessarily because you're like, oh, I'm so hungry and like I can't wait for lunch. It's just like, oh yeah, like
Yeah. For me, it was, oh, it's time to eat. I'm going
yeah,
to eat. And then my next eating window
yeah,
is later.
yeah,
And I wasn't starved. I wasn't hungry. And I didn't even eat, I still don't eat breakfast.
yeah.
I eat lunch and dinner. And then I have the awful bad habit that I got to break. You and I were talking about of grabbing the snacks around the house. Um, Being in marketing at work, when vendors come in, they bring
Great food.
baskets of treats that are not healthy. No one brings me an edible arrangement. They bring me bags of cookies and all sorts of other snacks, muffins. But snacking on those, I got to cut those down. But when I was on keto, I didn't watch my calories,
Mm-mm.
and I thought, oh, this is not going to work. I'm not going to lose weight, and I did. I dropped the weight, and my doctor at a few points did tell me I wasn't getting enough calories, and he's like, add some more oil. and I learned how to add, or I learned to add like coconut oil to coffee to get some more calories and kind of kickstart my day with a little bit of caffeine and
Mhm.
something in my stomach at least, so when I took my medicine, I didn't get an upset stomach for taking all my pills on an empty stomach.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's perfect. I think it's yeah, and you know what? I think a really important piece when I hear your story and I'm looking through the comments and people are like, "Ah, I did better when I didn't have fat. I'm better on plant-based." One of the things that we've done at Kidney Nutrition Institute is we look at people's genomics, right? And it's called nutrigenomics. So you can see how people's bodies kind of work just based on how their genes run. And as we've done that, and again, we use multiple approaches. We do vegan diets, we do keto diets, we do like elimination diets. We don't, I always say, we are not dogmatic. There is not one way for every person. There isn't. And anyone who sells you that, they're wrong. They're just wrong because everybody's so different. But when we look at genes, we can see that there's some people, and it'd be so interesting to see yours, right? There's some people who they really respond better to lower carbohydrates. Like they just don't like their glucose metabolism is a little bit slower, so they do way better on a low carb diet. And there's some people, honestly, and I had a lady this week and she was keto and I took her like we backed way off of it because she didn't
Mhm.
feel good on keto. It honestly super disrupted her sleep and she didn't feel great and she felt really malnourished and like she was eating well, but she didn't feel good. I was like, I don't think this is the right approach for you. Like, let's modify it a different way. And really, like, our message at Kidney Nutrition Institute is like, there isn't one way, and keto should be an option because it is so powerful. It honestly is a really powerful dietary approach and veganism or totally plant-based diets, that can be a really powerful approach too, but we should have all of the tools in the belt because
Mhm.
every human is different and like you should not have one way. So every single way can be like if you've tried a vegan diet and you're like, that just didn't really work, or I've done XYZ and I still have tons of proteinuria, or like I'm following a certain approach, but I hear this a lot with plant-based. I've been plant-based for a long time, but I'm honestly a little bit tired and I'm craving meat. If I, whatever, people with kidney disease are so amazing and they're so committed to taking care of themselves. I'm always
Mhm.
inspired by them. But sometimes I see that you don't listen to your body in exchange for something that you've heard somewhere that might help you out. I don't blame anyone for that, but I think the message is like take a step back and see if you can like work with someone that can give you another perspective on what you might be missing because there really is different ways to approach this and we've seen super awesome results with ketogenic diets, diabetes, and kidney disease. We've had people go up a stage, we've had them come totally off their insulin. Like it's some powerful stuff. Like it's
Yeah.
really amazing. So
Now, one question I've seen a couple times in here: what if people have protein in their urine? Um,
mm,
some of them are wondering, is keto something they should not consider?
this is a good question. And I'm guessing sometimes what we think about is our body's like a straw, and our body's not a straw, but we think a straw like protein in, protein out. That's not true, right? It's not like fat in, fat on.
Right.
Our body metabolizes things different. But if you have proteinuria, you should understand a little bit where that's coming from, right? Your kidneys are inflamed, so you get what I'd call leaky kidneys, right? You get leaky gut, kind of these leaky kidneys, you're having protein spill through. You can definitely drive that by excessive amounts of protein, but you can also drive that by excessive amounts of carbs that are inflaming your kidneys. There's a very popular medication right now. It's getting all the rage in the kidney world, the SGLT2s.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so SGLT2s, one of the ways they work is you pee out about 80 grams of sugar a day.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just back this up a little bit and you're like, and it helps with proteinuria, right? One of the things. So you back this up and you're like, okay, the mechanism is driving release of glucose. What if we just didn't have so much glucose in our diet to begin with?
Yeah. What if we reduce the amount coming in?
What if we just reduce the glucose to begin with? And so for those people that are getting this huge benefit on SGLT2, if you're in the capacity to work on diet, it's so interesting how you potentially could drive that same pathway and get the same benefit. So I wouldn't say don't do keto because you have protein in your urine. I would say understand why you have protein in your urine. And if plant-based, you still have tons of protein in your urine, try something different. And look at that inflammatory component, because ultimately proteinuria is a marker to me of inflammation. It's not a marker of protein intake.
That is a great, great point. And when I was first diagnosed, I was leaking lots of protein.
Yeah.
And they put me on a low inflammatory diet. And my protein reduced, but it didn't get zero. It didn't disappear to trace or zero. And that's when I discovered, because we were looking at my diet, what do I eat? I was tracking everything. And that's when I discovered, sadly, that I have an allergy to soy. And let me tell you, I was eating like edamame with every meal. I love soy products. I love the food. It's easy to cook and add them into things. And so I greatly limited all the soy in my diet. And a lot of the alternative foods I was eating were soy based. So I actually was eating a lot of soy, discovered I had an allergy. And once I limited the amount of soy and was aware of it, I got all that under control. Now I don't go crazy with soy. I'm not going to eat, everything soy based in one day, but I'll still enjoy some edamame. I now enjoy a small bowl. I was getting like bags of it and eating it like it was popcorn in front of Netflix.
Like, it's so healthy. I'm eating all this edamame.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, it's green. It's good for me too, and it tastes great.
Yeah. It's a perfect example. There's so many things about your story, James, that are a perfect example of why everybody, why you have to separate yourself from the dogma that runs in different nutrition camps. I love to
Yeah,
say it.
everyone's diet should be individualized. That's what I learned. You
Individual,
can't, it's not one diet, one list that works for everyone. It's individualize it for me. And then when working with the dietitian, I got the tools
yeah.
to now understand why these things, to make these choices. And I learned to love food again, not be afraid of it.
I
Because for
love
a
it.
while, from the moment I was diagnosed, I was scared to eat anything, like practically every kidney patient out there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. I think that's a common part of the journey for so many people. You get diagnosed, no one gives you real information. You get online, you look on Google, you get super scared and confused. And like, I don't do it with all this crazy information. And then you cut down potassium and phosphorus because you think that's what you're supposed to do from online, even though it's the most ludicrous, awful information that there is. And then you maybe try plant-based. Maybe there's a lot of noise and conversation around plant-based right now. And so you go there, you start getting results, and then you start building on it. And then you find little things, right? You're like, ooh, I'm doing way better, but I might need to look at the soy. Oh yeah, totally relevant, right? And for you, someone would be like, oh, you must be totally plant-based. Eat tons of soy. Look at all these studies. Soy is like the best thing ever. It can't possibly be soy. But like, hey, for you, like soy doesn't work.
For
So
me,
yeah,
I discovered two things I love that I'm allergic to. One is soy, and the other is blue cheese. And I did not know that blue
interesting.
cheese is actually a form of penicillin. I'm allergic to penicillin. And
Oh
I
yeah,
I love blue cheese. I know it's an acquired taste for some people, and some people will never acquire taste for it. But I love it. I could take a chunk of blue cheese and just nibble on it without any
okay.
problems.
A blue cheese mouse.
Yeah, exactly. Except I'm gonna have some problems later, not feel good at all.
Yeah.
But it's like we were saying, it's where we have to individualize it and look what works for us. Plus, you mentioned it earlier, it's this is a lifestyle choice. We can't feel like we're a prisoner forced to do something. It's got to be something we can live with that doesn't make us dread. Oh, lunchtime. What am I going to eat? What am I allowed to eat?
Yeah.
Working with, with you guys and other dietitians, we learn, hey, there's so much I can eat. I'm learning how much and combos and how to mix it and what I can do. And okay, I like this. Okay, well, here's how to fit it in. I learn all those things where you just love food, you're not afraid of it, and you look forward to eating.
Yeah. And that's really, really key. Like, there's always a journey for any health change that people are making. But you really want to take it from like, there's going to be a learning curve,
Mhm.
but I will figure it out so it works for me. And as a dietitian, I care as much that my patients love their food as I do that their food is helping them. Like, it's so important to me. I'll have my patients, they'll say on like 1 to 5 stars, tell me how your food was this week. Like, you got like 5-star food or you got like 1-star food. And they're really honest with me. And it's kind of, it's a good conversation starter. Like, it was like a 2-star week. And as I was a 2-star week. But it's really important that you can feel like your food can be 5-star, but not just that your food tastes amazing, but that it's not so burdensome on your mind and
Mhm.
your lifestyle. Like, we should embrace and love our food. I really love that about how the French and Italians, like they love their food. We don't love our food in America for the most part. We love it in the wrong way. But um but it shouldn't overtake our life. It should just be a part of our life, not our life. And I see that quite a bit. So
Yep. All right, so we're getting near the top of the hour. Any final things you want to add? And I'll look through here and see if there's some questions we might be able to answer. But anything you
um
wanted to add that we haven't covered that's important with, keto and diabetes, CKD and PKD?
I think the only other thing I'll touch on is that in the nephrology space, in the kidney disease space, where heart disease is the number one killer,
Mhm.
there's still a lot of, again, dogma, not evidence based, that too much fat is going to cause you heart disease, and since you have kidney disease, you're already at risk of heart disease, so don't do keto. That is also incorrect. It is Some people do not metabolize high loads of fat very well, and a smart dietitian can pick up on that, and they will modify your ketogenic approach or take you off keto. But there's also not great clear information that cholesterol is the main driver of heart disease. Super flawed research. Um, you have to look at it as a whole picture. So if you've tried a high fat diet in the past or a ketogenic diet, and maybe you've seen your lipids go way up, and doctor's like, whoa, like, don't, don't do keto anymore. Keto's killing you. You have you have kidney disease, you're gonna have heart disease. You have to look at the whole picture. You have to look at all the lipids, the HDL, the LDL, and guess what? Most, like 90% of people when they go on keto, their lipids will go up at first. It's part of the process of our body moving into ketosis. For a lot of people, they'll come down. Other people, you have to make sure you get enough fiber in there. And some people, you have to back off a little bit and say, I don't think keto's right for you, but we can do fasting. We can do a fasting approach.
Mm-hmm.
We can do low carb. There's different ways you can approach it. But I definitely think that for folks that have diabetes and kidney disease, don't be afraid of using ketogenic diets as a tool. I really think they can be powerful at achieving so many things: lowering your blood pressure, getting off insulin and other diabetic meds, improving your kidney function, improving your gut health. Like, they can have a multitude of benefits because they really are that powerful. So
And the type of fat that matters, right? Because I stuck with avocado oils, olive oil. I wasn't using vegetable oil. I used coconut oil.
yeah, we definitely push on a healthy fats approach. I mean, our goal is like get people into ketosis within a week or two. Usually it's only a week. People get in ketosis like that. It's way easier than people think. It seems so big, but it's actually super easy. Getting ketosis within a week or two, and then we're like, okay, can we maintain ketosis? Good, you got that. Can we get your calories up to the right level? Okay, now let's talk about the type of fats you're using, and we're going to tweak it a little bit. And so you go through these steps over 4 to 12 weeks. By the time you're done, you're like a master, and like, people can go in and out of ketosis. They know how to do it. It just becomes part of their life, and it's actually really easy. So
Yep. Fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna try to grab a couple questions
good
here.
question. I'm just talking and talking.
Yeah, let's see. Let me see. I'm looking through. We answered that about protein in your urine. What are some types of fat that would be included in a ketogenic diet?
So fats we use include avocado, like you mentioned, olive oil. We love olive oil. It's rich in those polyphenols. We use coconut oil. We use grass-fed butter. We use the fat that you'd find in fish, like fatty fishes, nuts and seeds. So we use sunflower seeds quite a bit. For PKD, we use a low oxalate approach. So we're not using a lot of almonds. If there's like extra hard, because almonds is like such a great keto food. But
They got fiber in them. That's what I love about them and sunflower
I mean,
seeds.
they're super good. But we use, the fat in sunflower seeds. We call macadamia nuts God's little fat bombs because they're
Oh,
like the perfect macro
if only
approach.
they were cheaper. I love them.
They're super high in fat, not high in protein, limited carbs. So those are some fats that we would use. People will cook with avocado oil. Um, we use, walnuts. I'm thinking through this list. Coconut milk. Uh,
I
some
use
people will.
clarified butter. Was that one that a fat that you guys use?
We use more grass-fed butter, but you could use clarified butter, I guess. But
I
yeah, we
would add
just
a
use
little bit to my coffee to make it almost like a fat bomb in the morning with
butter.
my
Hmm.
MCT oil. Oh, I remember those. I had to get
And
used to it. It took
yeah,
there's a an adjustment period where you're slowly ramping it up, and I made the mistake of, oh, I'm just gonna put a lot of it in there. I'm gonna go all the way in the beginning.
your stomach does not feel good.
Exactly. It's very noisy. It's like like, oh, uh-oh.
Yeah, it would definitely create some rumbles.
Now, are there any certain stages that keto is not recommended? Like if you're stage 4, is it like, no, 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 don't do it? Or, hey, no, we can work with you and fit it in with any stage. What are your thoughts on that?
Uh, my thoughts come from real life working with patients. Our second person to do keto with us, his GFR was 6. So
Woo!
6. For him, it changed his life. And I don't mean to overstate it, but for him, he would have lost his job if he went on dialysis because of the industry he was in. Um, and keto extended his kidney function for a year and a half. And we've even he followed keto. We took him off keto and did very low protein with keto analogs, which you've probably done some shows on, totally like plant based. We took him off of keto and moved towards that approach. And he actually didn't do as well. He started pulling fluid back on. Keto is diuretic, so you release some fluid during it. So he stayed with keto until he had a transplant. I don't know how long he would have stayed, but his GFR ranged between, like, it started at 6, it ranged between like 7 to 10, but he stayed very stable, felt great, was able to continue working full time in his industry. And then he got a kidney transplant. He recovered like that. He did really well. So if you're going to do keto at a very late stage, though, I definitely think working with a professional is really helpful. I wouldn't, if you go to dirty keto with a GFR less than 15, you could do some damage for sure. But if your GFR is higher, you have a little bit more wiggle room with the protein. Real low, I would work with a professional because there's a little bit more monitoring to make sure that you're safe and it's working for you. But you can do it at low. And James, just to piggyback on that, the very low protein diet with keto analogs. I know you've had a couple probably shows on this. That diet is about 60% fat. Like a good, very low protein diet protocol's 60% fat. A ketogenic protocol is about 70 to 75% fat. So they're actually not that different. When we ran all the numbers, we're like, oh, these are pretty close.
Yeah. Well, I am definitely going to, I'm not going to wait till January 1st to really focus on losing weight and getting, in better shape. I'm doing it now, which is great. Today has been a fantastic day. I made me a wonderful soup for lunch. It was a version of a chicken tortilla soup. If you like chicken tortilla soup, you'd be like, okay, this isn't chicken tortilla soup. But it was to me, and it tasted delicious. I made it last night and heated it up for lunch. It was awesome. I loved it. But I'm starting to eat healthier, and I'm going to try to do low carb, high fat, get back into ketosis, and get active again because I felt so good. And I want to drop weight again. And I have a reason. My daughter, in her school, they will be taking a trip to Washington, D.C. in the future. And that is 1 billion miles of walking a day. And I'm like, okay, I am going to chaperone that because I love to go to places like that are learning. And I have to be able to walk. So that is my driver for getting into better shape. And I want to be able to get up and walk 10 miles in a day without struggling. Right now, I'm doing like 4 to 5 miles, but I want to be able to easily 10 miles because I know when we go there, it's easily going to be 10 miles a day, if not more, with the museums and stuff like that. But this is going to be how I do it.
Yeah, no, set your intention. That's totally awesome, right? Set your intention. And then you move forward. That's working, like we said at the beginning, right? That's working from a health standpoint. You're not like, oh, I'm going to walk 10 miles so that my kidney function doesn't decline. It's like, I'm going to walk 10 miles because I want to walk 10 miles a day. That's awesome, right? Like that is seeing yourself as a healthy person. And that is really achievable for everybody.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are at the top of our hour. Thank you so much, Jess, for being here.
Great.
This has been enjoyable and educational, which is fantastic. And I hope everyone out there has learned a lot watching us tonight. Now, it is, if you're watching the live show or you're watching the recording, it is the 21st of November. So I want to wish everyone coming up that's in the United States a happy Thanksgiving. For everyone else around the world, a happy, great late November. As we start turning the corner into the end of the year holiday season, which I am looking forward to. We got to have you back on again, Jess. This is a treat. Now that I'm here, settled down in Detroit, it's easy to schedule things. I've got everything all set up and working. But we'll get you back in here again. And your website is kidneynutritioninstitute.org, correct?
Yep. And if you go there and you click on for patients, you'll see the different types of kidney disease that we help people with, and diabetes and kidney diseases there. You can click right in there. You can get on our waiting list for our upcoming program. You can grab our free mini guide on that page, which is really nice. You can follow, we just started a social media channel just specifically for diabetes and kidney disease on Instagram. So I think it's at diabetes CKD. And you can go follow that if that's specifically what you're looking for. If not, we still talk about low carb diets on our regular channel because we use it in a lot of different ways. So
Yeah, and we have links in the description. If you guys didn't write it down or want to know, hey, exactly how is it spelled? It's in the description. You can go down there and click on it and go right to Jess's website. All right, thank you so much, Jess. Thank you, everyone out there. Now, this is my last scheduled broadcast for the month. I will be back next month in December with many more shows as we continue to kick kidney disease to the curb. All right, everybody, have a wonderful month, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.